It's 2026, and if the last few years have felt less like chaos and more like something kind of quietly locking into place, you're not imagining that. If you notice that events keep arriving just preloaded with villains, emotions, branding, and solutions, like the argument was decided or prepackaged before anybody noticed it, I don't think that's random. So I'm not here to speculate or theorize or raise questions. I am here to show you why 2026 is going to be predictable. Let me be clear about what this is and what it isn't. This is not a timeline or a prophecy, and it's definitely not a list of things that might happen. So instead of asking what year something happens, the better question is, what does a system like this always do next? So keep in mind, these are opinion only, and they're not stated in any way that's asserting facts or accusations. So prediction number one, increased conflict with China. And it's not going to be through open war. It's going to be through pressure. China does not need to escalate anything. It just needs friction. Some delays in shipping, energy constraints, currency pressure, cyber disruptions. Each one's going to be small, but together they create a constant background stress. It won't be called aggression. The goal is just compliance with changing conditions. Number two, AI will replace a large percentage of artists. Music and writing, illustration, voiceover work, video. It's cheaper, faster, and endlessly compliant with humans. So for a very long time, creativity was the last place that humans felt irreplaceable. Even when jobs were automated, art still felt really personal to us, and that's gone. So number three, the loneliness epidemic is going to accelerate. It's going to be very quiet, and most people assume loneliness comes from isolation, and that's not quite right. Loneliness comes from friction. Human interaction carries more friction than it used to. Every conversation feels a lot heavier. And politics are leaking into everything. One wrong sentence can turn just a normal conversation between people into a big problem. And you're going to see this show up everywhere. There's going to be fewer close friendships. There's going to be more surface level only interaction. Loneliness doesn't just make people sad, it makes us hyper suggestible. So loneliness is not some side effect of what's coming. It is one of the conditions that allows everything else to work. So number four, AI becomes a primary interface for mental health. Probably by spring of 2026, more people are going to talk to AI about their inner life and their mental state than they will to therapists. And that's already true in small numbers, but it's not going to stay small. It's always available. It's cheaper. It listens without interrupting. It has access to more data. It doesn't judge you. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't try to check its Instagram while you're talking on the couch. And for somebody who's already lonely, that matters a lot. And for a lot of people, it's going to help, at least enough to keep using it a little bit. But that's where the conflict is going to start. Who owns the data? Who decides what advice is appropriate to give to people? And then what happens when guidance crosses into influence? And that's the fourth pressure point here. So moving on to number five, there's going to be an explosion of artificial content like video, audio, documents, screenshots, entire events that never really took place. I would assume by this summer of 2026, the volume will be high enough that authenticity becomes really hard to prove in real life. And that will absolutely change human behavior, because once anything can be faked, everything can be denied. A compromising video comes up, it's AI. An audio recording gets leaked out, it's a deep fake. Documents and evidence start to appear, it's generated somehow. When the world is just saturated with synthetic material, the burden of proof is going to flip backwards. It's going to feel like a lot of confusion, and then we'll kind of unplug because it's just too much. And confusion is incredibly useful if you study human behavior, because when people cannot tell what's real, they fall back on something a lot easier. And this is tribe, authority, and familiar narratives. And that's the fifth pressure point. Number six, there will be an event that encourages isolation. So something's going to happen that makes isolation feel like a sensible option. And I don't think it's going to be mandatory or enforced. I just think that's going to be reasonable. Most people are not going to feel pushed into isolation. They're going to feel relieved by this. A lot of people are already tired of navigating other people. So when distance is presented as a virtue, it's going to feel like permission to do what you wanted to do anyway. And because it isn't called isolation, people aren't going to treat it the same way that happened during COVID. They're going to call it something else. And that's the sixth pressure point. Number 7, psychological operations become very visible this year. They're not going to disappear. They're going to get a lot more obvious, and you're going to hear it more often. This feels staged. This doesn't feel organic. This looks like a setup. And that creates a problem for influence, because influence, as you probably know, works the best when people don't notice it. So influence is going to be a lot less about persuasion and more about environment. So instead of convincing people what to think, systems are going to shape what's available to think with. So what content shows up, what gets buried, what feels normal to say out loud. And that is the 7th pressure point. Number 8, psychedelics moving into the mainstream as repairing meaning for people. So you're going to see a lot wider adoption of psychedelics as repair. So when people lose all this creative identity, they lose connection with other people, they lose trust in the narratives, and they stop feeling grounded in their own experience. They're going to look for something that resets their perspective. Psychedelics do that. They've been used for 4,000 years, or probably way more. But what's new is the context. So mid-2026, a lot of people are not going to be asking, how do I become more successful? How do I succeed? They're going to be asking, how can I feel human again? And that's the 8th pressure point. So what is all this actually about? 8 separate little predictions. Those are not separate. They're 8 expressions of the exact same condition. And that condition is a system under pressure, behaving predictably. So when geopolitics tighten up, pressure is going to replace the confrontation, just the pressure. When technology speeds up like crazy, identity starts being displaced. If our connection to other people erodes, people become way more suggestible, easier to steer, to manipulate. When the truth gets really noisy or surrounded by noise, authority always fills that gap. We know this from history. If truth gets super fuzzy and noisy, authority fills the gap. When proximity to other people feels costly or expensive socially, distance becomes desirable or even reasonable. If influence becomes clear for everybody to see, it shifts into the background because it's just normalized. And when meaning, the actual feeling of meaning, collapses faster than systems can adapt, people are going to look for ways to reset their perspective. And there's only 2 things that all of this requires to take place. Number 1 is incentives, and number 2 is human nature. You don't need coordination at the top. So what's coming in 26 isn't about the control in the cartoon sense of the word. It's about adaptation and forcing people to adapt to something new. It's about systems adjusting to instability and people adjusting to those systems. And that's also why recognizing the pattern truly matters. Once you can see the pressures, you stop reacting to every event like it's isolated. What's being normalized here? What's becoming frictionless? So until then, I just want you to notice one thing. When something new shows up, ask yourself, does it feel like a solution or does it feel like an adjustment? And once you can tell the difference, the future stops feeling overwhelming and it starts making sense. Thank you for hanging out with me for a few minutes, and I hope your year is absolutely fantastic. See you.